Where does your favorite team's quarterback rank at the mid-season point of the 2024 NFL season? What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch here, back with a live quarterback tier list. In this video, I will give you my rankings for every NFL quarterback, all 32 starters, including a few backups that have also played this season, discussing how they are playing to this point of the 2024 NFL season. So this is not a tier list based on 2023, their career, their longevity, their stats even. I don't really care about their history. This is all about how they have played, how I would rank them right now, and how I see them this season. Okay? So if that sounds good, Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new and you're just catching the bottom line view for the first time. I went live so that you guys can respond to my rankings. Let me know if you think I'm accurate. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Let me know if you think it's just right in the comment section. You guys know how this works. We're going to break it down. We're going to have some fun. And yeah, let's get to it, man. Just shout out to the people in the chat already. We got Caesar, Big Al, Cobra Kai in the chat. Thank you guys for checking out the live stream on a Saturday night. Let's share the screen. I just updated the tier list, so we should be good to rock. We have, I think, close to 50 quarterbacks on this tier list. So it's going to be a long one, but a good one. Let's get to it. Okay, so as our tiers show here, these are the same tiers that we went by after the 4 weeks of the NFL season. If you guys didn't check out my 4-week quarter of the season quarterback rankings, I made those rankings 4 weeks ago. So now it's time to update you with the recent 4 games and give you the same tiers, but just resorted, renegotiated, okay? So the tiers are as follows. Elite, the best quarterbacks in the game. They carry their teams on a weekly basis. These are MVP candidate quarterbacks. Franchise, they're above average quarterbacks. They're capable of carrying their team, but they probably have a flaw or two that hold them back from being elite. Good, question mark. So it's more like good, I think. These are quarterbacks that I think have been good this year, but I don't necessarily feel like they've always been good. Mid would just mean they're average. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. They might be a little bit underrated. They might be a little bit overrated, depending on how you see them. Not ideal just means below average. Maybe they're not playing to expectation. You could have better quarterback play than this player. And then booty is self-explanatory. This player absolutely sucks. Okay, so let's get to it. Beginning with, and I love these StatMuse little, shout out to StatMuse. I used a majority of the faces that I could find on there for these graphics. I like them. They're kind of cool. All right, so let's begin with Baker Mayfield, who has, in my opinion, in the quarterback rankings, I had him as an elite quarterback. I had him as a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I think since he has regressed back to what you would more so expect from Baker, especially in terms of turnovers, okay? So his play has regressed in terms of turnovers, mistakes. He's throwing the ball the other team more often. But that being said, even in this recent performance against the Atlanta Falcons, he was able to throw for over 300 yards, darn near 40 completions with no receivers. I mean, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin. So I think Baker is still playing at a very high level. I think especially in terms of when you look across the NFL, quarterbacks are struggling to find completions. Quarterbacks are struggling to remain accurate consistently, remain confident in their reads in the offense. And I feel like Baker is as good as any quarterback from within the pocket this year at just going from 1 to 2 to 3, at finding his read, at delivering it on time and making a play. And then on top of that, we've seen Baker Mayfield this season be able to extend plays, be able to actually scramble a little bit more often than you would think. He's operating really well in Liam Cohen's offense, regardless of the targets that are out there. His defense is trash, and he's still making plays out there and still making his team competitive. I think he was next to MVP level before, the first 5 to 6 weeks. I think he was darn near as good as anybody, but I think recent weeks maybe a little bit lower than you would like from him just in comparison to that start. So I would say Baker Mayfield, this is tough because I don't want to put too many people in the elite category. I would probably put him in the franchise category to start, and maybe we can adjust it from here. But I feel like he's been a top 10 quarterback this year. I almost feel like there's no debate. I don't really know what his stats are, but I'm pretty sure that he's up there in terms of passing touchdowns. He's got I think a deceptive arm in terms of his ability to throw the ball into tight windows. I think the only thing that's really holding him back, he's not the physically most gifted from a mobility standpoint. And I would definitely say that in the brain, sometimes he can make a forced throw that does turn the tide of the game that ends up resulting in a loss. That's been definitely recent. So I like Baker a lot. I think he's also a great leader, probably one of the best at the quarterback position. Malik Willis is next up. Malik Willis, I would put in the mid category, actually. I think that when he's gone in for the Packers, he's actually performed admirably. He's not the best passer, especially from a drop back standpoint. He's not the best in terms of reading defenses or getting the ball where it needs to go. But when he's been in this offense under Matt LaFleur, what he's been able to do is they cut the field in half. He's able to read the field, 1 to 2 to 3 reads, get the ball where it needs to go. He's a very good runner. He's a very good scrambler. He's very good on designed runs. He's very athletic. And I actually feel like he's played really well. He's made very few mistakes. He's done and accomplished what he was really asked to do. And that would pretty much equate to a mid quarterback. He's not losing the team any games. He's actually never lost when he's been a starter this season for the Packers. So Malik Willis has been undefeated for the Packers. Even when he had to come into a game where Jordan Love got injured, he played well at the end and got them the victory on the game-winning drive. So yeah, I like his athleticism. I like how Matt LaFleur uses him in the offense. And I think when he's asked to pass the ball, he's done a decent job of accomplishing what they're asking him to do. So yeah, not gonna be a guy that I would want as a starter for a full season, but as a backup, he has some really awesome traits, such as his athleticism, that I think gives him a pretty good floor to his game. So Malik Willis, I'd put in the mid category. Tyler Huntley, Snoop Huntley, whatever you would call him at this point, I would just put him in the booty category. When he went in there for Miami, he really did nothing very good at all other than throw to Jonnu Smith. He was frantic under pressure. He was inaccurate and, just all over the place. In that Titans game, he felt like he just didn't know where he was against the Patriots. I'm not sure how they won that game. The Colts game, he got injured. So, yeah, I don't think he's really a backup quarterback at this point. I think, honestly, he's probably a third-string quarterback. So he's definitely one of the worst quarterbacks that's played this season. He can't really throw the ball down the field, and he struggles to get the ball out quickly. He oftentimes takes too long to make a decision, make a read. So Snoop Huntley in the booty category. Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget it. That's how more NFL fans find the Bottom Line View so that we can talk about quarterbacks just like this. Bryce Young is the definition of booty. I think everybody knows that Bryce Young is arguably the biggest bust in NFL history. I actually thought his best performance was probably last week, and that being week number 8 of the NFL season. I just think he's too small. He doesn't have a strong enough arm. He really can't see. He's not good against pressure. He's not super quick or fast. He just doesn't have any physical gift that allows him to play at the NFL level as a starting quarterback. I think he was promised to be a quarterback that was really smart and a good decision maker, but he just doesn't have anything from a physical standpoint that allows him to do anything at an above average level. So, he had good pass protection this year. He doesn't have bad receivers in Carolina when he played. Deontay Johnson was there. They added that to the mix. Like, he's had a good running game. Like, Carolina is not one of the worst situations in the NFL for a quarterback. I know that people would tell you otherwise, but I've seen worse situations this year, and Bryce Young still fell flat on his face. They even brought in a coach they thought could fix him, and that didn't work. So, Bryce Young, hopefully, the kid seems really nice, but he's just not good at football. I'm sorry. He's just not good at the NFL level. So he is booty. Next up, Daniel Jones. I think some people would argue he's booty, but I kind of lean towards not ideal, to be honest with you. So we're going to go in not ideal just because I think that's exactly what describes Daniel Jones. Like, can he pass like the test every once in a while? Yes. There's a reason he got the contract that he did. Like, that's the definition of not ideal to me, where like he has some games where you definitely see the talent. Like, he's got a decent arm. He's a big guy. He can run a little bit. And he even puts stretches of games together where he's solid, I would say. And he can operate Brian Daboll's offense pretty well. I mean, there are certain games where he's been really solid. I thought against Seattle, he was really solid. I thought, honestly, against Pittsburgh for majority of the game, he was very good until the end, at least in terms of production. I think that he's had his moments this year, but I definitely think that when the offensive line is less around him, he does speed up his processing, and therefore his accuracy becomes too erratic. I think that's the least discussed area of his game that is not good, is just his accuracy. I think it's way too, like, his spectrum of accuracy is all over the map. I would also say that he's just generally not a creative player. He's just not a guy that's going to go out there and extend a play and make magic happen without the system doing it for him. And he's just very rigid overall. So in his mechanics, in his flow, in his overall game. So he's a workable player in a good system, but to me, just not good enough to win you a ton of games. So not ideal. Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is interesting because I think he played actually pretty well at the start of the year, but then he has definitely dropped off the last few weeks, especially in terms of decision-making, in terms of just throwing the ball up for grabs way too often and losing his team games. There's been situations early in games where he could have made a throw, or he could have made a play, or he could have chose to not make a throw that wasn't there, and it's lost him the game, and it's spiraled out of control. Like the Lions game, early in that game, I think they were right in it in the first quarter, and I think the whole spiral out of control began with Dak Prescott throwing a bad pass and an interception. The Niners game, I mean, multiple bad passes resulting in interceptions. He could have thrown like 4 picks. But I think Dak is also a little bit of he's subject to a bad situation. I think his offense is very vanilla and very predictable. I think his offensive line is the worst he's ever had. I think his receiving core is extremely overrated. He really only has one player to throw the ball to. His run game is atrocious. So basically what we're dealing with Dak Prescott is kind of like the Tony Romo Cowboys for a certain time there, where I always felt Tony was better than Dak, to be honest with you. He had less around him. I think Dak Prescott is probably, this year, I would say he's probably mid. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'd like to put him in the good category, but so far, he's just making too many mistakes. He's not overcoming the deficiencies around him. He's not really extending plays. He's not showing any athleticism like he did last year. He's really just, even the strength of his game that's supposed to be the mental aspect, he's just not showing that either. I mean, there's just nothing that he's doing at an elite level this year, where I felt like last year, his composure, his confidence in the system, his accuracy, his downfield tight window throws were all excellent. I kind of feel like Dak has been mid. Ben says, come on, bro, don't put him with Malik Willis. Bro, honestly, Malik Willis has been good this year. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, this is only based on this season, guys. So this is not based on the history of their game. This is based on only this season. Geno Smith, This one's tough too. I would put him in good, I think. I think Geno's kind of good, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Geno, he has his moments. Geno, I actually really like watching Geno because I think that he is one of the traditional quarterbacks in the league. And that's why I also like watching Dak a lot of the time, because he still plays like a quarterback that I grew up with. You know what I mean? They're at the line of scrimmage. They're smart. They get the ball where it needs to go. They're very accurate. They're supposed to be their game. But when it's off, it's off. For Geno Smith, I think he's shown an ability to uplift his cast in the passing game. I do think he's been a little bit inconsistent at times. I think that for Geno, though, his supporting staff, he's got great receivers, but I think the offense has been hit and miss. I think the running game has been hit and miss. I think the O-line has definitely been dreadful, which I think has probably been the biggest area where he has been held back. You could argue maybe the mid category, but I think that Geno is generally aggressive and he keeps his team in games generally. And I feel like he can make all the throws, intermediate throws, downfield throws. He's very good in 2-minute situations. I feel like he's used his athleticism pretty well this year. This one could be adjusted. We'll see how we look for the rest of the video. This could be dropped, but I feel like good for now is probably the right place to put him. Brock Purdy, I would put Brock Purdy in the franchise category. I don't think he has a couple flaws that keep him from being in the elite category. He's definitely had 1 or 2 below average games, the Chiefs game for sure, and then the first half of that Cowboys game. So relatively recent performances that weren't his best. But I think when you look at Purdy and you make the argument against other quarterbacks, he's been able to withstand a level of play that's impressive despite a lot around him not being perfect. His offensive line has at times let him down. His receiving core has been largely injured. He doesn't have the best player on his offense. The defense at times has been inconsistent. He's given his team leads that sometimes their defense has not been able to keep. I would also say that there's been guys dropping like flies in every game around him. So I feel like Purdy has actually done a good job of withstanding all that's been around him in San Francisco this year. Now, does he get helped by Shanahan? Absolutely. But Purdy also, with his feet, I think has been able to really do a lot. He's been a great runner. I think he's actually top 4 in rushing yards this year for quarterbacks. His stats overall are pretty solid. His passing touchdowns are maybe a little bit down from last year. But overall, he's strung together a lot of good performances. The thing with Purdy, though, is it feels like he just leaves something to be desired. And I think it just comes down to his physical arm strength. He doesn't have the strongest arm. And the ball, I feel like it could get there faster, or it could get into tight windows a little quicker. There's things about Purdy as a passer that I feel like at times he's a little limited. But in terms of composure, creativity, accuracy, those things are all at a high level. He's smart. And he operates his system at a really high level. So he's not quite elite because he leaves some plays on the field. But for what he's had to go through this year, I think he's a franchise quarterback. Matthew Stafford, I would say this has been a tough one because Stafford, when he actually has half a team, has probably been elite, but he doesn't. I would say franchise is probably fair for Stafford. I would say that when he has his team, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league because I just think few quarterbacks have him in terms of his ability to process information at the line and then post snap as quickly as he does. I don't think there's many quarterbacks that are as good as Stafford at getting the ball out fast, accurately, with power, with pace, as Stafford does. I think his ability to manipulate the pocket in terms of pass protection is excellent. I think his ability to read blitzes is excellent. His ability to still throw the ball downfield and have power on the football is at a very high level. He's got one of the best arms still in the NFL. Obviously, he can't run, but Stafford could pretty much do everything else. He can, layer throws really well, fit the ball into tight windows really well. Does he have the odd throw where it's like, whoa, why'd you make that pass? That's an interception. That's a bad play. Yeah, he has a couple of those on his resume. But overall, in terms of like pulling the trigger and getting it there, there's few guys in the pocket that are better than Stafford, if any. I mean, he might be the best pure pocket passer in the NFL. So, yeah, Stafford is still really, really, really awesome. I just think that he has had a couple games where he hasn't played to his standard. He's maybe forced the ball a little bit too much, or like he just hasn't had the players around him, so it's made him look worse than maybe he actually is. Kyler Murray is interesting. I think Kyler Murray is good. He's had probably like 2 or 3 really awesome performances, but the rest of the season feels like he's been a bit mid. So I would put him in the good category because he's obviously one of the best scramblers, one of the best runners in the NFL. There has been a recent push for him in media recently that he's been like this MVP caliber player, but I just don't see the consistency with him overall. I think there's just been games where it's a little bit underwhelming, like throwing consistently under 200 yards a couple times this year. It's like, that's not MVP caliber to me. Now, does he add the odd 50-yard rushing touchdown? Yes. Does he make incredible backyard plays? Yes. I still think there's something with Kyler where in the structure of the offense, he'll pass up plays. He can't see the middle of the field that well. He doesn't operate in terms of throwing the ball down the middle of the field that well. But I think in terms of elusiveness, in terms of creativity, in terms of fun to watch, excitement at the quarterback position, there are a few that are more exciting than Kyler. And I think that he has these games where he's capable of just going nuclear and just like taking over games. So I would say that good makes sense for him. Kyler Murray is on here twice. I'm going to put him at the bottom. Josh Allen is up next. Josh Allen is elite, obviously. Josh Allen... First of all, I think the first thing you have to say is that Josh has not been putting the ball in harm's way this season, which is, I think, the reason why people didn't want to give him the MVP last year, despite, putting up the stats that would indicate that he should have won the MVP. But the turnovers were a problem for people. So I think that he has gone to this season, and I think he's taking better care of the ball. I would say that what helps there is having a better team. I think the offensive line is a little bit better. The run game is definitely a lot better. I think that the structure of the offense is a lot more sound. And I think Josh generally is playing less reckless. He's playing less backyard football. He's playing more within the structure of an offense. And then obviously he's like a top 2 or 3 rusher in the NFL in terms of his position. He's got the strongest arm in the league. He still makes unbelievable plays that make no sense, like constantly running towards the sidelines and making like insane throws 30 yards down the field like he did against the Jets. And he's just a beast. I mean, red zone, impossible to stop. Third down, really hard to stop, like constantly ranking at the best in the NFL in those categories. And yeah, I think you would make an argument right now he's probably the best quarterback in the league overall. There are some quarterbacks that can be better than him at times, but I think most consistently this year, considering what's around him and what's there for him, he's probably the best quarterback there is. Aaron Rodgers, I would say this is weird because like I kind of feel like Rodgers is getting hate, a lot of hate, and I think it's driven off of politics. I think it's driven off of maybe his personality or his unlikability. Like people just don't like Aaron Rodgers. Let's put him back here for a second. But when you really think about how he's played, I think he's definitely been underwhelming from a team winning standpoint. So that's going to come up big for him. I think in games, he's been less accurate than you would expect from him. His mobility is definitely not there the way it used to be. I still feel like Rodgers is throwing the ball into tight windows as good as many quarterbacks in the league. I think his fade ball is still unbelievable. I think some of like the touch and the accuracy things, I think his accuracy is not as good, but his touch is still kind of there. He's had really good moments, but he just can't seem to string together an amazing one, like a full game. Feels like he has quarters or drives where he looks like old Aaron Rodgers, but it feels like there's just not a full consistency to his game. I don't think and this is the other thing with Rodgers you have to consider. He's part GM. He's part offensive coordinator. He's, like, it's really hard to say. Like, he's he's supposed to lead this team. He's not really doing that all that well. So I think there's reasons to say he's been good, but I think there's also reasons to say he's been bad. Like, there's a mix of all these different things with Aaron Rodgers that I think a lot of other quarterbacks don't have. So I think overall, I would actually put him in not ideal. I know that might be crazy, but you mix in all these different things. You mix in the leadership standpoint, which is downright dreadful. You mix in the general managing, which is dreadful. You mix in the overall influence over the team and organization, dreadful. You mix in the mobility. He can't move, okay? The inconsistency in terms of turnovers, which is not something we're used to from Rodgers. All those are major negatives. Does he have, some really nice throws, some really awesome plays, some great stretches of play? Yes. But I think overall, most people would say he has not played well. You could maybe put him at the mid category, and I would accept that. But I think overall, not ideal, just for the other things. The other things to me. That's really what puts him down on the list. Booty. Jacoby Brissett is booty. I feel like I don't know. He doesn't know what a wide receiver is. He only targets tight ends. He really doesn't do anything in terms of like making plays. Like Jacoby has very rarely made a throw that made you say, wow. Or he rarely did. And Prestige is saying he's top 5 in passing touchdowns. He's top 10 in yards. He throws the ball 40 times a game. Also on top of that, I don't care about stats. It's nothing to do with stats. I'd throw stats out the window. Okay, I don't even know what anyone's stats are, so I don't care about stats. I'm just talking about their play. Jacoby Brissett, he's a backup quarterback. That's the thing, okay? His mobility, I definitely think you saw a difference between Drake May and Jacoby Brissett when both of them got behind center. You saw a difference in the offensive line. Teams just have to play Drake May differently than Jacoby Brissett. You can blitz Jacoby Brissett. You can impact Jacoby Brissett. Look like every time he got hit, which he got hit way too much, he got destroyed. Holds on to the ball a little bit too long for my liking. I think his arm is there. I still think he's got a good arm. I think his accuracy mostly there. I think his decision-making pretty conservative, but I'd rather that than be super aggressive. So I think there's things that are good for a backup, but I think overall this year, he just hasn't put together a performance that's actually helped his team win. It's more like he's helping his team not lose, if that makes sense. Next, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been franchised, in my opinion. So they signed him, and he's pretty much paid off to this point. You would have thought that Cousins coming off an Achilles wouldn't be the same player, but I think he's been pretty close to the same player. He's still very accurate. His arm has never been amazing, but it's good enough. He controls the offense very well. I think that in 2-minute situations, you would be hard-pressed to find a quarterback that's been better than Kirk Cousins this year. I mean, how many comebacks has he had? How many drives for game-winning, overtime, the Eagles game, the Bucks game? You talk about, his mobility is limited. They have to limit the playbook. But Cousins this year, he has had multiple huge statistical performances that have helped his team win, right? So it's not only the stats, but it's the wins behind the stats. He has been a huge reason they're winning. He's a huge reason they're in first place in their division, right? Like, their defense is bad. He's having career seasons out of Drake London. He's rejuvenating Kyle Pitts. Darnell Mooney's having a great year. Cousins has done a great job this season. He actually did beat a good team. I would consider the Eagles to be a good team. I think the Bucks with Evans and Godwin were a good team. I think he's done a good job this year. I think that Cousins, a good leader too. Like, he inspires his teammates. They play hard for him. So I think Cousins has been a franchise quarterback without a doubt. Tua, I would say not ideal overall. I think, even when he's played, not just considering the the concussion, obviously that kept him out for a while. But even when he's played, I don't think that Tua's played that great. I really don't. I think the Bills game was dreadful. Week 1 against a pretty bad Jacksonville defense, now that we look at it, was mid, right? The last week performance against Arizona was fine, but nothing special. I mean, this guy has the best weapons in the league, arguably, at wide receiver. He's got what many people think is a really good play caller. He should, in theory, have a really talented team around him. His offensive line has been healthier than past seasons. And overall, he's just become very predictable as a player. He's very limited as a player. People kind of have figured him out. They understand what he is and what he isn't. They understand how to rush him. They understand where to force him to throw the ball. They understand, to hit him hard, to be physical with him. He's soft. I think that, and then you have to consider, his injury concerns are also having an impact on the team. Because he gets injured so easily, it hurts the team. So, yeah, Tua is not ideal in my opinion. I don't think he's bad. I think he's fine. I think when he plays, he's probably more of a mid player. But I think when you consider everything about him, I think not ideal makes the most sense. Plus, he's a very fragile personality. He's very impacted by criticism, I find. It's not an appealing trait. What's up, everybody in the chat? Don't forget to Gronk spike the like button and subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. It's Mitch. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to Christian, Justin, Ben, Yonel. I don't know how to say your name, man. Cobra Kai, Samuel. Thank you guys for joining and commenting. I'm reading all your comments. All right. Justin Fields is next up. Justin Fields, I would say not ideal. He was benched for a reason. I don't think he was outright bad when he played, but I think there's just things that Justin Fields, and we've talked about this for years, he just doesn't do well. He doesn't see the field well. He misses open players. He reads half the field. He's a really athletic guy, but honestly, it felt like his rushing was not as impactful as past seasons. He is slow to deliver the ball. He has a slow release. There's a lot of things that limit his game. I feel like overall, I loved his personality this year. I think even taking the criticism and being benched, I feel like he did that well. He's done everything that his coach asked him to do, his team asked him to do. I think he was a good soldier for the team. He put the team in the right position. I feel like he did a really good job protecting the ball this year. I think he did a better job of not getting sacked as much as usual. I think some of his decision-making was better than past seasons. He understood what he was supposed to do. He made the throws that he was supposed to make. He just really didn't do a ton that was over the top. I think we clearly see a difference between Russell Wilson and the explosiveness of the offense after Justin Fields was benched. I definitely think Russell Wilson has given something to this team that Fields did not, as a passer for sure. So, yeah, Tua at not ideal. Lamar Jackson, I would consider elite. I think a lot of people have considered him until maybe last week the MVP of the NFL. I think in terms of his speed and elusiveness and scrambling, I think it's all at an all-time level for him. Since 2019, I felt like he kind of slowed down with each and every season, including last year's MVP campaign. I didn't think he was as dynamic as a runner as I think, maybe past seasons. But I think this year he slimmed down a little bit. He looks quicker. He looks faster. He looks more explosive. He picks up yards easily when he does decide to run. I think as a passer, I think the system around him has been better than ever in terms of the play action usage, in terms of guys getting open. I think he's delivered on all that stuff. I think his deep ball has been really nice this year. And I think his overall creativity has been at an all-time high. His ability to find plays down the field has been really awesome. His leadership, I think, is one of the more underrated aspects of Lamar Jackson. I think he's a very swagger-filled player, but I think that he doesn't get enough credit for the edge he brings to the football field, the competitiveness that he brings to the football field. I think maybe a big criticism of his could be they're only 5-3, despite at times feeling like a juggernaut. It feels like they should be 7-1. They're just not. And maybe some of that falls on Lamar. I think his defense has not been as good as advertised or should be. But I definitely feel like maybe from just that standpoint, on top of having, Derrick Henry having a phenomenal year, but Lamar's also involved in the running game there. So, yeah, I think Lamar has been as good as anybody, truly. Pretty awesome. I think he just the playoffs. Again, like this is a regular season tier list, but we'll see how he does in the playoffs this year. I think, honestly, though, it feels like if the Ravens are going to lose, it's going to be more because of their defense, which I definitely didn't feel was the case last year. So next, we've got Joe Burrow. I think I'd put him in the franchise category. I think there's a couple things about Burrow that has maybe not allowed him to be elite. I think, first of all, I think that he's like, I don't know, like at the beginning of the season, he was conservative, felt like too conservative. In the middle of the season, he was phenomenal, but they still lost a couple games you wouldn't have expected. The defense has been dreadful. I think like his ability to go above and beyond kind of sometimes what's there to be had, I think isn't as good as Lamar or Allen. I feel like he relies a little bit too much on the playmakers around him, and I think you see a little bit of a drop-off when he doesn't have those playmakers. I think that is maybe a criticism you could say. I know that is pretty, like, obvious. Like, when a player doesn't have his best players around him, it's going to hurt him, but I feel like Burrow handles that a little bit less ideal than other quarterbacks do. I also think that for the guy that is thought of as a really like great leader and personality, it's been underwhelming. Like you would think a team would be more buttoned up, and maybe that falls on Zach Taylor. But it feels like Joe Burrow from the offseason until now, like he's just not, he doesn't have that same fire to me that you usually see with him, or that inspiration for players around him. So I feel like he's become a little bit more phony in that regard. I still think in terms of his game, he processes information very quickly. He's very, very, very accurate. His touch is very good. He goes through his reads very well. I think he knows when to extend plays very well. And I think a lot of the problems with the Bengals don't have to do with Joe Burrow, to be honest. I think the O-line has never been great. I think the run game has been spotty throughout his career. I think Zach Taylor is probably overrated. The defense is trash. Like, there's a lot of problems that aren't Joe Burrow related, but I'm just kind of telling you why I don't think he's necessarily been elite. I think elite quarterbacks win a lot of games. I think right now Joe Burrow is not winning to the degree that he would like. I'm not saying that's all on Burrow. I've explained that. I just feel like he maybe could have been a little bit better to help them win in some of those spots. So Deshaun Watson, we already know he's absolutely dreadful. If anyone is defending Deshaun Watson at this point, they are absolute idiots. I don't know what to say. Absolute idiots. I mean, Deshaun Watson is awful. We saw the difference between the Browns last year with Joe Flacco, this year with Jameis Winston. Deshaun Watson sucks. He can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He is probably a guy that feels like in his own mind he's a better athlete than he actually is at this point. The amount of times where he tries to escape and make plays and just simply can't do it. His arm is shot, like his shoulder is dead. Like, he can't do anything out there. He is awful. Will Levis, I've got to put him in booty, not really because of his skill level, but because of his brain. He is just the biggest idiot on the football field. Like, he actually has a really good arm, and he actually has moments where he makes a lot of tight window throws that are really impressive, but his decision-making is such a negative that it makes him unplayable. He's also, like, really tough. When he's on, he's fun to watch, but he's just a dumb decision maker, and he doesn't take what's there as often as you should. He's a guy that, like, just doesn't allow an offense to flow, to function. He's way too big game hunter oriented. Like, he's always looking for big throws, big plays. He really struggles to keep an offense on task. He's just a really bad manager of an offense. Anthony Richardson is awful. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're idiots. I don't know what to tell you. Like, Richardson, there comes a time where you just have to prove you can complete over 50% of passes. Like, I know it's not the best stat that you could use to prove quarterback play, but when your quarterback consistently throws for under 60% completion, you probably are not good. You know what I mean? When you're constantly trying to throw the ball 50 yards downfield and not finding a guy open, when you're constantly not going to the right place with the ball, when you're constantly missing wide open players within 10 yards, when you're constantly getting injured because you don't know how to protect yourself as a runner, but you're 6'8" and you look like the Terminator, it's just like, yeah, is he athletic? Is he an athletic specimen? Yes. Does he have an extremely strong arm? Can he make a few plays in every game that are special and look elite? Yes. But he is bad at everything else. He doesn't read the field. He makes bad decisions. He can't throw an accurate pass. He is just one of those guys that everyone will find every excuse in the book to make him work, because when it's there, it's there, but it's simply not there. I don't know how else to put it. Because when you compare him to Joe frickin' Flacco, you have an absolute baller supreme. Joe Flacco. Bro, I don't even know where to put this guy to be realistic. Like, I want so bad to put Joe Flacco in the elite category. But honestly, like, if I'm being absolutely honest, Joe Flacco, how good has Joe Flacco been? I honestly think Joe Flacco has been a franchise quarterback. Maybe I'm delusional. I don't know. Joe Flacco is good, bro. Joe Flacco is actually really good. Still. I trust Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco makes good decisions. Joe Flacco is accurate. Joe Flacco still has a strong arm. Joe Flacco knows when to get rid of the ball against pressure. Joe Flacco is a good leader. Joe Flacco, people like him. The teammates like him. Just look at the evidence. How he's played for the Colts this year. How he played for the Browns last year. How many quarterbacks have been better than Joe Flacco since he started for the Browns last season? I know this is only based on this season, but the guy's only played a couple of games. Man, Joe Flacco is legitimately a franchise quarterback right now. Like, the inability, I think sometimes he's almost like too aggressive sometimes. His aggression, like, he just goes out there like a guy that does not care. He goes out there and he just slings it. He says, F it, I'm going to go make a throw. I'm going to go make a play. And that has made him one of the best Joe Flaccos we've ever seen. That has made him, playing like a guy that you would think is in his prime, but maybe he's too aggressive at times, which causes maybe a couple turnovers. I think that, obviously he can't move. Like, he's a statue. So those are some of the things that hold him back from elite. But man, the evidence is there. Joe Flacco is a baller. He operates an offense and he makes really nice throws. CJ Stroud. I'd put in franchise as well. He's had some rough games recently without Nico Collins, but I think a lot of what CJ Stroud has been limited by is, I would feel like Stroud, his offensive line is dreadful. Like, absolutely maybe the worst in the league. They can't block anybody. So Stroud is constantly running around. I think Bobby Slowick has been solved. Teams just know how to cover up the system. Like, he just doesn't have guys open. Stroud's constantly having to make plays. I do think Stroud has been underwhelming as of late. I agree with that. But I think a lot of it falls on his system, falls on his team. Like, when you can't block, when your run game is inconsistent, when your receivers are hurt, and when your offensive coordinator is constantly putting you in bad spots, there's only so much you can do. That being said, I felt like Stroud, I still feel like he could do more. I still feel like maybe my expectations are too high, but I still feel like he could do more out there at times that I expect from him, right? I still think he's fast in terms of processing. I still think that he gets the ball where it needs to go. I think he's one of the most accurate passers in the league. I still think that his pocket presence, his ability to maneuver the pocket is excellent. His ability to extend plays is near elite levels. I love the passion he plays with. I think that he really makes the players around him better. There's a lot of admirable traits for such a young player, but I do think that this year has been an up and down season for him, but I think a majority of it has to fall on his team because I think his team has let him down in a lot of aspects. Trevor Lawrence. I would say Lawrence actually has been mid recently. I think that the first couple games were awful, but I think after that, Lawrence has actually played pretty well recently. I thought he played really well against the Patriots, near a perfect game. I thought he played a good game against the Packers. And I think that honestly, like, the O-line is bad. The receivers are good. The offense is not terrible. The run game has been solid. The defense is awful. Like, they're terrible. So I think Lawrence has been mid. I think the things I like about Lawrence, I think that recently he's been more aggressive. He's throwing the ball down the field more, and he's connecting with it. I think that his mobility is not as good as advertised. His processing is a little slower than I would like. But I think when he is protected and when he is operating from the stance of, I'm going to go downfield with the ball and I'm going to try to make big throws with my arm, which is an explosive, strong arm, he can make a lot of plays. So I would say Lawrence is probably mid. He doesn't really elevate, I feel like, players around him, but he doesn't really hurt the team. He's not the reason they're losing. He's just not great. You know what I mean? He's not worth that money. He's not worth that contract. But I think recently he's played better. So I would put him in the mid category. Derek Carr, and we say Kyler Murray, it's top 3 QBR. QBR is a fake stat, but I would also say that, I mean, how inconsistent, like, he's just too inconsistent for me. He's had like 3 amazing games, and he's just too inconsistent overall. Next up, Derek Carr. I think definition of mid, honestly. Like, Carr, when he's played this year, he had the first 2 weeks, stellar. After that, Chiefs game, Like, he got injured. That's not great. But I think what we've seen from Carr this year is he's been more aggressive. He's been throwing the ball down the field more often. I think that, though, he's just Derek Carr. You know, like, he has to be protected. He has to feel comfortable. He has to get in a rhythm. He's just a guy that you feel like you always have to comfort. He's a comfort food. He's a comfort guy. Like, he's that guy you just, oh, yeah, good job, Derek. Like, good job. You made a good throw. You know, like, I don't want to deal with that, man. I don't want to deal with that, okay? So, Derek Carr, yeah, he's got physical skills. The arm, I think, has been good this year. I think the accuracy, we'll see how he responds from this injury. I really loved how he played in the first 2 weeks, but beyond that, I think he's been overall. T-Law is booty last 10 games last year and first 6 games this year. I think the last couple games he's played really well. I don't know about you. I don't know his stats. I just think the last 3-ish games he's played pretty well. Patrick Mahomes is next up. This one's tricky because obviously they're undefeated. I don't know what his touchdown interception ratio is at this point. Is it even? Like, I think he has like the most picks in the league or something like that. So Mahomes is tricky because he's statistically not very good at all. His yards per attempt is like at an all-time low. His air yards are at an all-time low. He really is. He's been more of a system quarterback this year than he ever has been before. And his defense and his run game have been kind of the engine of the team. So, but he's also been really, really good on third down. He's been really, really good in the fourth quarter. And that's kind of what you want from your quarterback. It's really hard to rank him this year. I think that he's had some really bad interceptions, some really bad throws. I think overall his rhythm hasn't been the same. I think his escapability has still been as good as ever. I think the tackles are not good, but the interior line is really good. The receivers are not great, but they're improving. I would say that Mahomes, how do I even put this? I would put him, I think I'm going to put him in the franchise. I don't know, though. He's not elite this year. He's just not. He's just not. He's just not. He's not. You watch him play, they don't score that much. They move the ball 3 yards at a time. I think he's franchised just because of the plays that he makes in the big moments. And that's really what I'm going to lean on here. But there's no quarterback that really this season, it's all yak. It's all short passes. There's no explosive ability to his game this year. There's no pushing the ball down the field this year. So I just think that he overall is not playing at an elite level. He's playing at a level that allows his team to win, but I don't think that he's playing at a level that puts his team above and beyond. I think if he were playing at an elite level, they would be hammering teams. I just don't think he has been playing at that level. That's just me, though. Bo Nix, I actually did elevate him from last time. In the first 4 weeks, I only had him in good. So he's in the franchise category. Bo Nix, I think not ideal overall. For a rookie, I would say maybe you could put him in mid, I guess. But when you watch Bo Nix, the fans are going to go nuts here. Broncos fans are going to be all mad at me or whatever. But when you actually watch Bo Nix play, he's just scattered. That's the best word to say. He's just scattered. His brain is all over the place. His decision-making in terms of, reading the field. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He's constantly running around in circles and, trying to make something happen. He is quick, and I think he's more elusive than I gave him credit for. But a majority of his production comes on short throws or in garbage time. His defense and his run game are the main proponent of his team. He's pretty much a passenger on his team. And then, fans are going to say, oh, he has all these touchdowns. How many of them have come in the fourth quarter against terrible opponents where they're already leading by multiple scores? You know what I mean? There's a difference between stats that matter and stats that don't freaking matter, And his accuracy is crazy, all over the map. The Saints game, man, there were throws where I'm a high school quarterback could have made that throw and he misses it. What is he doing sometimes? But I think for the most part, he's handled the Sean Payton offense pretty well. He's tried his best. I think that his overall ability to avoid negatives is probably his best trait. So I would give him that. So that makes him not booty. But his ability as a passer is just not there. It's just not there. And he just doesn't have any explosive passing to his game. 1 or 2 highlights come to mind. Seems I have bias. Based on what? I'm just evaluating the quarterbacks based on my eyes and what I see. This is only based on this season, guys. So putting Mahomes in elite would honestly be a crime against Lamar and Allen because Mahomes has 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I don't know how you could put Mahomes in the elite if you're being objective. Okay? All right. Minshew. This one's weird too. I don't think he's booty. I think not ideal because I think he's had moments where he's helped his team compete, but he's also had moments where he's been dreadful. So this one's a little bit more of a roller coaster where I think the Ravens game, for example, really, really good game. I think even the last couple of weeks, he's overall been pretty good, but he just has some plays like a fumble against the Chiefs, an interception here or there against the Rams where it's what are you doing, bro? You're panicking against pressure. His arm isn't the strongest. He's clearly deficient in terms of physical ability. His arm isn't there. His size isn't there. His mobility really isn't there. Okay. But his overall rhythm, his overall timing, his overall seeing the field is pretty good. He's got a great aura to him, a great swagger to him. And he still has this moxie that I really like, where he has these moments where he can make big time throws with touch down the field, right? little scramble here or there. So I don't think he's terrible. He's probably a backup quarterback, but he's one of the better backup quarterbacks, I would say, Gardner Minshew. So that's why I put him in the not ideal category. And an elite quarterback like Mahomes is working on his fourth ring and 3 in a row, and he still didn't hit his stride yet. We've got a comment in the chat. Guys, this is based on this season. It's not based on last year. No one has won a Super Bowl this season. It's based on this season, guys. All right, Justin Herbert. Next up. I would put him in the good. I think Herbert, especially recently, has played really well. The last 3 weeks, I think he's played really well. Obviously, his situation on offense is as bad as any situation I think there is in the league. His offense is really vanilla and very, very passing handicap, I would say. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but that's what I would say. It's really restrictive on a quarterback. His receivers are awful, besides Ladd McConkey. He's throwing to guys that I've never heard of at tight end. The offensive line is decent. The tackles have been injured, but overall pretty good. The run game, I think, is overrated for them, and they run the ball too much. The defense is good. He's been winning probably at the level you would expect, maybe a little bit more based on the Charger talent that they have. But I think the overall structure of the team is better than I think you would give it than you would give it credit for in recent years. Like, the overall culture, the overall team is better now, just in terms of the way they're ran, the way they're structured, the way they play. Like, I think Harbaugh has put together a good organization, a good structure of a team. Is the talent as good? Absolutely not. Now, that being said, I think Herbert has one of the best arms in football, one of the most accurate passers in football, understands how to throw the ball at all 3 levels with touch and with timing. I would wish that he would ad-lib more. I wish he would throw off platform out of the pocket a little bit more. I wish he would extend a little bit more, but that's not really what he's being asked to do as much. I wish he would run a little bit more, to be honest, because I think he's a deceptively good athlete. I wish he would be more vocal. I wish he would be more loud. He's just very calm and cool. But that being said, I still think he is elevating his team enough to put him in the good category. Jared Goff, I would put in the franchise category, probably higher up. We'll order them at the end. Goff has been excellent statistically. There's no denying his statistical production. There's no denying his ability to run the offense. I just never watched the Lions play, and this is the best way to put it, because I know Lions fans will want to feel like he's elite, but I think I'm probably only going to end this video with 2 players in the elite category, to be honest, so there's that. But Jared Goff just runs the offense really, really well. I never watched the Lions and I'm like, wow, Jared Goff just won them that game. He was absolutely unbelievable. He made this throw and that throw, and he avoided this pressure and that pressure, and he was able to throw every pass in a tight window on time, unbelievable. Usually when I watch the Lions, I'm like, wow, this offensive line is unreal. Nobody ever gets close to him. The run game, they run people over all the time. The defense is opportunistic. The coaching is excellent. The team is really well-rounded. I'm never sitting there like, wow, Jared Goff is just this good. He's unbelievable. You know what I mean? But I think that he is the conductor of the great offense. He always knows where to go with the ball in this system. He always gets the ball to the right spot. He knows when to be aggressive and when to be conservative. His decision-making, I think, has been as good as any quarterback in the league. He knows when to push it. He's tough in the pocket. He makes a number of nails throws. I think there are things that teams can do to him to make him get off his game, but it's really hard to do in this offense because they're so well schemed and coordinated and they're so good up front. It's hard to make his deficiencies shine through, like his inability to throw off platform or his mobility overall, right? There's things that I think that he isn't good at, that I don't necessarily think have been shown this year, maybe in very limited doses, like maybe against Tampa a little bit. But there haven't been that many moments where it's like, wow, Jared Goff was bad. He's mostly been good to great this season. I just think that it's more of like an eye test thing where I'm like, that was a good throw. That was a great decision. But I'm like, he makes like 2 or 3 of those a game when Lamar and Allen make like 7. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm saying. Sam Darnold is up next. I would say good. I think that's probably the perfect category. He's run the offense well. I think the most impressive part for Sam Darnold has been his accuracy. I think every time he throws the ball, it goes to the right spot. Like, in terms of the placement of the ball, like, he throws those in-breakers extremely well. He throws it with really good touch and strength. He's able to put the ball in a spot for his receivers that allow them to make nice catches. I think he's been really good off of play action this year. I think he's been subtly pretty good scrambling around. He hasn't made too many backbreaking mistakes. I think in terms of running the offense and what they've asked him to do, he's been a good quarterback. I think that when he's asked to do above and beyond is where they'll get in trouble. When their defense isn't performing to a really high level, that's when they get in trouble a little bit with Sam Darnold, but that hasn't happened too often this year. So, and I do think that he needs to speed up his clock a little bit moving forward because Darisaw is now out at left tackle. So, yeah, Sam Darnold at good. Caleb Williams. This is interesting. I might get hate for this, but I don't really care. I think Caleb he's between these two categories. I think against good opponents, he has been booty. I think against bad opponents, he's been mid. I would probably put him in not ideal. I'm probably going to get hate for this, but I don't really care, bro. I think Caleb, against the Commanders, I thought he was awful for like 3 quarters. I think that at the beginning of the year, he was awful. I think for like 2 games, he was really good. I think against Jacksonville, he was really good. Was it Carolina? He was really good. But again, those are like the 2 worst defenses in the National Football League. So when you consider the competition, it's not exactly great. So what's Caleb been bad at? I think his downfield accuracy is downright dreadful, like iconically bad. I would say that the ability to just understand, when to take a sack and not take a sack has certainly not been ideal. So his play under pressure has been a bit erratic. I think the offensive line is not very good in Chicago. The scheme is not perfect in Chicago. But, I mean, they have great receivers, and their running game has been decent lately, I would say. I mean, they have a very good tight end. They have a great defense. He's in an awesome situation. So, honestly, and then when I watch Caleb, I think the best plays he makes is his ability to manipulate and move within short spaces in the pocket and to be able to run. I think he's made a couple nice throws on the move this year, but I think from the pocket, he's been And then sometimes his decision-making and his accuracy has not been what I would have expected. So I would say not ideal overall. I mean, maybe that's just high expectations, but yeah, I could see mid, but I'm going to put him in the not ideal category. Jordan Love, I'd put him in good. I think that's pretty fair. First of all, injuries have hurt him in a negative way for me. I don't like how he's gotten hurt twice. I mean, that's hurt his team. Not really, but because Malik Willis has been so good. But that's also like going back to the conversation of Malik Willis is undefeated. Jordan Love's lost a couple games. Now, it does have to do with opponent, Eagles and Minnesota, but I'll just point that out. His arm strength is awesome. I think there are a few quarterbacks that can make as many highlight reel throws and as explosive throws as Jordan Love. I will say that. His decision-making, a little up and down. Okay, This year, I feel like he forces the ball a little bit too much. There's plays in the Texans games, plays in the Jacksonville game, plays in the Eagles game where he's just a little off. I think the accuracy is something that leaves me a little bit like on the fence with him, just in terms of sometimes he misses easy throws. Sometimes he makes a really impressive throw that few players can make, but then there's an easy check down that he'll miss, right? So he misses easy throws sometimes. I think his mobility is fine, but it's nothing special. I think his pocket ability is really good, just in terms of his ability to manipulate his body and arm to make really impressive plays. His ability to play within this offense, especially at the intermediate and deep level of the field, is really impressive. I think that Matt LaFleur has set him up for great success. And I think a lot of quarterbacks could have great success in this offense. I think we've seen Malik Willis, a guy that I thought was terrible, enter Matt LaFleur's offense and play really well. So, yeah, Love is just a little inconsistent. I think so. Gizgo says, how do you got Stafford and Flacco above Love? So Stafford is just better, I think, in every regard. Stafford is smarter. Stafford has just as good of an arm, if not better. Stafford, his timing, his quickness in terms of anticipation is better. Again, I'm not looking at stats. The Rams are a worse team. The Rams have a worse offensive line. The Rams haven't had receivers. Stafford at his best is an MVP player. Love is just too inconsistent for me to be MVP. And this is only based on this year. Do I say Love is overall franchise quarterback? Yeah, you would want him as your quarterback long term. I would agree with that. I think this year, Love, he puts up passing touchdowns, things like that. That's great. But in terms of could other quarterbacks do that? I think so. I think a lot of it is the Packers are a really good, really well-run offense. In terms of Joe Flacco, limited sample size, but I think Flacco, there's something about him where he's just been able to elevate his team with Cleveland and with the Colts. And then his ability to just make these throws down after down after down. His consistency in terms of them asking him to throw the ball 35, 40 times a game and him actually coming up with wins in those games, I think is crazy. Usually with Love, it's the run game is a big part of it. They're going to be a balanced offense. He works a lot off play action. I think Flacco does a better job with drop back pass. I just think Flacco's been unbelievable lately. It's kind of fluky maybe, but it's still really impressive. Jaden Daniels, I would put him in the franchise category. We got a lot of guys in franchise categories. Some Commanders fans would say elite. One thing that's surprising to me about Daniels is for as much publicity he's getting, as much love as he's getting, his stats actually aren't as good as I would have thought. I don't really even know anyone's stats. I don't know who leads the NFL in passing yards. I don't know who leads the NFL in passing touchdowns. I haven't looked. I don't care. But, Daniels doesn't have a lot of touchdowns for some reason and doesn't have a lot of yards, I don't think either. His rushing is super dynamic. I think his elusiveness is elite. I think that his composure is elite. I love the way that he just allows plays to develop. His touch down the field has been overall really good when he gets a shot to do it. He doesn't take it very often, but there's a couple throws every game where he will make a throw down the field that's really impressive. He knows when to take those shots. I think he's a good one-read thrower in terms of if he knows where he's going with the ball and it's open, it's complete every time. His accuracy on those throws is as good as anybody. I think when you force him to go beyond the first read, when you force him to throw in the middle of the field, and when you force him to kind of play a little bit more in terms of don't let him just be a one-read player or run player, which is really hard to do because he's such a good runner and he's so accurate on his first read that it's hard to defend. But I think what we'll figure out with him is that I think you're seeing a player that was so good in college that I didn't really think everything that was so good in college would transfer to the level that it has, especially the passing, but it definitely has. I think that you're seeing a player that's kind of like what he's going to be. Like, I think what he is now is like what he's going to be. Maybe he can continue to develop mentally, but that's going to be an intriguing aspect of how defenses respond to what we've seen from him so far. Because, the rushing has been unreal. The elusiveness has been unreal. The escapability has been unreal. And the accuracy has been superb. I think that people, where they get misconstrued about Daniels, is I think they don't ask him to do as much as people think. I think that's the area where I wouldn't put him in the elite. Is like, a lot of the offense is simply like quick read, throw, like a bubble screen, swing pass, screen pass, quick curl, stop route, or like slant or something. Like, a lot of it is just really simple, which is easier to operate, but it's also like they also can operate that way and have success still because he adds this rushing ability on top of it that makes it hard to defend. So that's why I put him in the franchise category. Jalen Hurts, I would say mid is fair. Hurts, he had a really rough stretch where it felt like he was like done. Like, he couldn't read the field. He looked slow. Like, his decision making wasn't as good as usual. But I think recently he's responded, especially since getting back A.J. Brown. I think what Hurts brings is a few unique things. I think his deep ball is very good. I think he still brings that unique power and ability to run. The tush push is a thing, but also his ability to scramble and make plays. His ability to avoid negative plays is largely pretty good. He does maybe throw the odd bad pass every once in a while where it's like rather inaccurate, especially at the intermediate level. Or he's just like, he makes a bad decision, especially this year for some reason. Down the field, like he'll throw into double coverage and it's picked off or something like that. That's kind of frustrating. I think that overall, the biggest deficiency in Hurts' game is his vision. Like his ability to read a defense, his ability to see open guys beyond the first read or two. But because he's so physically gifted, and he knows how to like just play ball, he gets around it. His offensive line is also really good. His receivers are really good. The offense is fine, but I think that in a different offense, he might be more exposed for the things that he doesn't do well as a drop back passer. But I think for the things that he does do well, he's able to overcome a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is mid to me because he's had a kind of a roller coaster season in terms of production and in terms of decision making and things like that. Drake May. I would say Drake May, for what we've seen, we've only seen 2 and a little bit of a game. I think Drake May has been franchised. This might be a little bit homer, but just because he hasn't played that much. But Drake May has been, honestly, considering his circumstances, like, unbelievable, to be honest. Like, the worst offensive line in the league, a bottom 2 receiver core in the league, a dreadful defense. I know that he hasn't really put up the wins, but when you watch the kid play, it's all there for sure. Like, the arm strength is there. The decision making is there. His ability to, like, and I think this is something he does better than Jaden. His ability to like go through his reads, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, his ability to operate in a traditional manner and find the right guy to throw to, his ability to manipulate safeties and linebackers, his ability to throw the ball into tight windows, his ability to create openings for receivers and like lead them into a spot where they can catch the ball. Like, subtleties like that, Drake is actually really good at those things. His deep ball is unbelievably good. Like, even for like, not even for, he's literally like one of the 3 best passers in the league down the field this year in terms of throwing the ball deep. His rushing ability is surprisingly really, really good. Not surprising for me, but for most people, because I scouted him pretty heavy. And I think something he needs to get better at is like the timing of pressure, like sensing pressure a little bit better. I think that's something he could get better at. I think he has more misses in terms of accuracy than Daniels does, I would say. But I think his ability to make elite throws is as good as almost any quarterback in the league already. Obviously, he needs to grow and mature as a leader and things like that. Those are small things. But I think in terms of a rookie quarterback, for sure, he's been great. I mean, even in the first 2 games, he was the only quarterback other than Dan Marino to have like a certain amount of touchdowns and a certain amount of passing yards. So yeah, he's already lived up to the hype on an absolutely horrific football team. So that's why I put him in the franchise category. Andy Dalton, I think early in the year, he was actually playing kind of well, honestly. But then he kind of fell off. I would say not ideal. I just think Andy Dalton, he's never had the best arm. He's not the most mobile guy. He's smart. He can operate an offense. He's accurate with the ball. Like if Andy Dalton had to fill in on a good offense, I think that he would actually be pretty productive. You know, put up touchdowns, put up yards, be able to operate it. I think it's where he gets more exposure to more play, and the deficiencies show up at this point in his career. Like at his best, he was like a good quarterback. He was like pretty mid, but like, you know, you could definitely win 12 games with him. Like he was actually pretty good, right? But now at this point in his career, he doesn't really bring anything physically to the table that's really impressive. But from a mental standpoint, he definitely upgrades your offense. He plays with speed. He plays with timing. Like he knows how to play quarterback. So that's why I'd put him in the not ideal category. Jameis Winston is elite. Elite press conferences. Elite personality. Elite comedy. Elite arm strength. Elite swagger. Elite difference between him and Deshaun Watson. And elite watchability. Jameis Winston. Absolutely elite, brother. Absolutely elite. No, I'm just kidding. To be honest, but I really want to put him there. But I'm gonna put him in good. I love Jameis though. Maybe he could get better. Honestly, like Jameis has been in his one game. He only played one game. Okay. He was good. He was better than good. He was like really good in the one game he played. He's a little bit risky. Okay, he's a little bit risky, but he'll make a big throw. He'll make a lot of big throws. I mean, against the Ravens, he made a lot of he had 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks against the Ravens. He won that game. He's inspirational. He's quoting Eminem. Yeah, Jameis is the best, man. I think legitimately, you can win with Jameis. If he doesn't be an idiot, and he doesn't play like an idiot. So far this year, he's played good. I'll give him. He's played good. Okay, we're gonna keep it there. All right, Spencer Rattler's terrible. He is so bad. I don't know what else to say. He's just really bad. He seems too small. He's slow to go with the ball where he needs to go. He's just overwhelmed. He feels like a rookie that's just completely overwhelmed by the NFL. There's nothing else really to say there. And that is the list. Let's order it. We probably have too many quarterbacks in the franchise category and not enough in the elite, but it's okay. It's okay. That's how I feel right now, I guess. Honestly. Let's order it. So, Josh, then Lamar. Let's go. Okay, based on this season, let's go Goff. Let's go Burrow. Daniels. Daniels, Burrow, Baker. Let's go. Do I want to go Pat or do I want to go Cousins? Cousins maybe? No, I don't know. Cousins, Pat, Stafford, CJ, Flacco, Drake. That's fair. That's fair. Good. We're going to go Kyler, Herbert, Darnold. No, Kyler, Love. No. Kyler, Love, Herbert, Darnold, Geno, Jameis. Mid, we're going to go, well, Malik hasn't played that much. We'll go Dak, Hurts, Carr, Trevor, Malik. Then we'll go not ideal. Rodgers, Tua, Caleb, Fields, Nix, DJ, Minshew. I don't know, though. Dalton's probably been better than some of these guys. We'll put Dalton here. There we go. Booty. Actually, Daniel Jones after Minshew. Booty. Let's go. Oh, my God. These guys suck. Holy smokes. Oh, gosh. Brissett's first. Bryce is terrible. Levis second. I don't know. Snoop Huntley is awful. Richardson. I guess. Is that what we're going to do? Maybe Huntley's better than Watson. I don't even know, bro. Okay, so is there anything we should change? What do you guys think? Malik Willis has been as good. You want me to put Rodgers up a tier to mid? Would that make you feel better? Maybe that would make you feel better. Okay, we could do that. I mean, I'm fine with that. No, a lot of it was off the field related. I'm not gonna lie. Like being the GM of the team. You know what I mean? We could put Rodgers at mid. That's fine. We could put Rodgers at mid. That's probably more fair. Okay. We got a lot of franchise quarterbacks. Okay. We good. I mean, we could put Flacco and Drake in good for now because they haven't really played that much. But honestly, when they've played, they've probably been franchise quarterback. So that's what we're going to go with. Remember, it's based on only this season. Oh, Brock. I think I didn't adjust Brock. Let's put Brock behind Pat. There we go. All right. There we go. You guys love Bo Nix. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in. It was a good time. We'll see you tomorrow. Sunday, man. Sunday. More football live streams coming. Subscribe to the channel. Gronk, spike the like button. Shout out to all you guys live. It's been Mitch. Deuces.